today we will speak with Priyanka. She recently interviewed with London Business School in November of 2017. And so we'll start with the introduction and then we will take it from there. So, okay, Priyanka, please just quickly introduce yourself.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Priyanka. Right now I'm working at Unilever UK as an e-commerce new revenue streams channel lead. Prior to Unilever, I was working at Flipkart, which is the largest e-commerce in India. I was handling different categories at Flipkart, and prior to that, I have worked as a senior business analyst analyzing French FMCG markets. From the background, I did my undergrad in zoology and I learned French when I was studying zoology. So that's kind of the overall background about me.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll speak about two things today. So one is your application strategy for London Business School and your interview experience. Okay. So let's start from the top. So any tips that you would like to share with people who are interested in applying to London Business School? How they should go about approaching their application? Any insights that you can offer?
Okay, so I think from London Business School perspective, the school is very specific about the fact that people who apply to London Business School should know what London Business School is and how it is different from other schools. So if you can actually go to the school, that would be great, but due to location constraints, if you can't go to the school, try to attend as many admission events as possible, try to speak to the students and the alumni and really know why London Business School and be clear about that this is the school of your choice.
So any other tips, or should we move on to speaking about your interview experience?
I think overall this is the tip that try to know as much about the school as possible, and then second tip is start early because there are more than one aspect in the entire application, which includes your GMAT, applying to the school, even doing the research on the school. So earlier you start, better it is.
Oh, wonderful. So at this stage, what we can do is that we can move on to speaking about your interview experience at London Business School. So just for starters, if you can just set the scene, who interviewed you, what was the length of your interview, and you don't need to take names, it's just a quick background of the person who interviewed you.
Okay, so I interviewed at London Business School, and the alumni who interviewed me is right now working at Home at Vet, so as a head of business development, and which prior to that she was working with McKinsey as a consultant.
Alright, okay. And just before we delve deeper into the LBS interview, how was it different from your NCR interview?
I think both were quite conversational. And the only difference, there were two main differences that I could think. So first one is I interviewed at the campus, and the second difference was the presentation.
So we'll speak about both the things in fact. So if you can just, so people who do not have the luxury of visiting London Business School campus, just tell a few things that they can probably use in their essays. Okay,
so I think one thing is talking to the alumni. So I remember when I started doing my research, so I not only went to the school, but I went and visited the professors at London Business School, and I tried reaching out to alumni on LinkedIn. So I remember, I think I would have written to maybe 20 odd LinkedIn contacts who I don't know or who don't know me at all. So, but the good thing is that alumni at all the B schools are mostly approachable. If you write to them telling that you are a prospective student and you are interested in applying, most of them reply, and most of them are adaptable to give you timings which is after office hours, and everyone is flexible in terms of WhatsApp call or a Skype call or whatever. So people who cannot go to London Business School, I would honestly advise reaching out to people on LinkedIn.
Okay. And what was your impression of the campus was like? So how would you see the campus, and what are the things that you liked about London Business School by visiting it in person?
I think what I liked the most about the campus was the location. So it's in central London, which is the prime space in London, and it's like huge campus in the center of the London. So that was the most impressive part of the campus visit. And the second was infrastructure as well. So those were the overall.
All right, perfect. So let's delve deeper into the kind of questions that were asked to you. So how long was the interview, by the way?
So I think the interview lasted for around 1.5 hours because it was at the campus. So we had the luxury. So the interviewer actually booked a meeting room at the new building that London Business School has inaugurated. So yes, it was a nice opportunity to visit that as well.
Wonderful. All right. So just how did the interview start, and how did it flow, and what kind of questions were asked? So if you can just give a quick overview of that.
Yes, so definitely one thing that that is worth mentioning is when she started the interview, she highlighted that she is going to be very structured in this interview, because in the past, where she has interviewed many people, she ends up having a really great conversation. But when she has to fill the details, where I think LBS asks so many questions or the checklists to the alumni, so she was like, I struggle to fill it, because that's when I realized I haven't even asked this question. So she told me clearly in the start that I'm going to be as structured as possible. So that's how it started. And after that, she asked me to tell me about my tell me about myself, or walk her through my resume. And she actually asked me to highlight what I did and why I did.
Got it. And after that, what kind of questions were asked?
I think after that, all usual, why London Business School, why MBA, why now? But one striking thing is, after we had moved from this conversation, she did ask me, for example, I get the reasons that you have highlighted why you want to do an MBA from London Business School, but you tell me personally, what is it that you are looking for from LBS? So that was something which was something I didn't anticipate.
So what did you answer?
So I think I answered first is to have a lot of fun and meeting different people, interacting with as many different people as possible. And the second is, if at the end of MBA I have few people whom I can call friends, I would say I have earned my MBA. So I think she was quite impressed with that.
Great. So in terms of any other oddball questions, anything out of the blue that was asked?
So there was one out of blue question was, first she asked me what I think is wrong in the world that business is not really focusing on. And after I answered the question, she asked me, so what do you think the business should really do about it?
Alright, so that's a very interesting question. So what did you say?
So I think I mainly spoke about the ultra-right movement that's happening in the world. That how people are scared and everyone wants to close their economy, whereas what people fail to realize is that resources were always limited and they will always be limited. So basically you need to set your priority and focus on what you need rather than having an ostrich approach.
So that's a very intellectual answer in a way.
Yes, and after that she did highlight, then I told that okay, the challenge could be if industries or countries are eventually closing themselves, a big conglomerate or a MNC like Unilever, they might find themselves with no business in a country, because for example, tomorrow a country comes across and then say, oh, we don't want international organizations, where would you go? Where would you go? So it's a huge risk. Then she asked, what should they really do? So that was something which really put me off, took me off surprise.
I think that was, you were having a very detailed level of conversation on a very intellectual kind of a question, so it's okay to be cramped once in a while, but you have given like a fantastic response according to me. So, all right, great. So, and any other oddball question apart from the two that you mentioned?
Then I think she asked me, very complicated question. For example, it was like, okay, so how will you contribute to not only LBS but also the class and the clubs and the study groups?
Okay, so that's a composite question, and you need to kind of answer it very quickly, right? So that's
yes, or you need to be structured so that you don't miss any important part. So yeah, that was one complicated question that I felt.
Other than that, very usual stuff, why MBA, why now, why LBS, why Europe, why not INSEAD, or why not some other school? Did they grill you a little bit there?
Surprisingly, no. I was anticipating that question to come, that are there any other schools where you have applied, but she did not ask me that.
So before we speak about the presentation component of LBS, let me just cover all the other questions first. So how did you end your interview? So they usually ask, do you have any questions for us? So what did you ask them? This is one question that I get personally asked a lot. So it would be good to have your take on that.
Okay, so I think I asked her two questions mainly. So the first question I asked her was if she can advise someone who's doing an MBA what to do. Or I think I phrased it like in other line, which was if you could go back and based on your learnings, what one should not do, what it would be. So in that case, she was quite open about the tips that she had for everyone. And okay, sorry.
The second one.
And the second question I asked her was why she moved from being a consultant to pet e-commerce organization. So which is like a very strange transition. Not many people do it. So I just wanted to know genuinely why she did it.
Alright, wonderful. So I think that's where we can wrap up the discussion on the broad interview questions. So okay, so let's speak a little bit about the presentation component of LBS, which is fairly new in a way, and there are very few schools who use a presentation component. HEC also does it, by the way, for our viewers.
Okay.
So alright, so just the general semantics of what the presentation was about, what was the topic, how much time were you given to prepare for it, and how did you approach it?
Okay, so I think all the interviewers are given some choices. They have like 4 or 5 topics, which either they give it to the interviewee to choose, or at times alumni select it for you. So in my case, she had already selected the question and then she gave it to me. The question was, you are a hybrid, you are in a automotive organization and you are planning to launch a hybrid car, and after that you would not be launching any old combustion engine. So that's a very risky strategy, and the CEO himself is scared, but he says no action is more scarier or more riskier than continuing with the existing strategy. What would be how would it impact, or how would this decision impact the organization as well as your competitors? So that was my question.
So let me just stop you there. So I can just simplify the question for people who want to like.
Yes, it took me time to recall.
Okay, otherwise they will keep rewinding the video and watching it. So the question.
Want me to say it again?
No. So I think that is okay. I'll just simplify it a little bit and just correct me if I'm wrong. So basically the question was that, an automotive firm is coming up with a new strategy and they just have like very specific requirements around it, and you had to basically suggest how to make business improvements and how will you go about solving this case, right? So
yes, kind of. Yes, how will this decision impact the organization and the competitors?
Right. Wonderful. So alright, so what was your approach, and what would you suggest applicants how to think through such problems on an impromptu basis?
Okay, so I think the first thing my interviewer highlighted was they are mainly looking for the approach rather than your findings or the end result. So try to be as structured as possible in whatever you are doing. and try to be as simple as possible. So these are the 2 tips that I would suggest. And I think third tip could be stick to one rather than exploring all the possible areas, because the time is limited, and rather than getting yourself stuck or lost, keep one path, get the best out of it, and done with it.
Alright, those are wonderful insights. And just out of curiosity, so what according to you was the expectation of the interviewer on this presentation?
I think she had honestly she had no expectation. So I took a very customer focused approach where I focused on, alright, what would be the customer's reaction when you go for the strategy, and based on the reaction, how would it impact the organization as well as the competition. So she was surprised, and then she actually mentioned that I'm impressed with your approach. I would have never thought from the customer perspective. I would have rather focused more on cost benefit analysis, or how would it impact financially.
Okay, sounds good. And okay, so I think that pretty much sums up your interview for LBS, unless you have any more tips or anything else that you would like to add about INSEAD or LBS.
Okay, so I think at the end of the interview, I told her that I was given the feedback that it's going to be really grilling, but the interview was really great. So to which she actually mentioned that most of the important work is actually done by the admission committee when they have selected the profile. The time when the interviewer actually come, it's mainly to see, do you really fit in the program, or more than the fitment, what are your expectations?
Okay, so thank you so much, Priyanka, for sharing those insights. Just as a final question, any tips that you would like to share, or anything that we have missed, that the points that you would like to add?
I think overall you have covered everything. So one important tip, as I already highlighted, is do your research and start early. That's it.
Okay, and just one final question. So how was the experience of working with us?
That's a good question. Okay, honestly, it was amazing working with Akshat. So I think when I decided I want to apply for an MBA, and I started researching online and talking to people, and what I liked the most about Akshat was, first, I got to speak to the consultant with whom I would be working, so which is very important. The second thing I liked about Akshat was he was very direct and simple, so which is very important when it comes to working on application with someone. So I clearly remember on my first call with Akshat, he highlighted brutally what are the negatives in my profile and what needs to be done. So that was the most important thing which I liked, and I think which actually made me take the decision. Then the third thing I liked the most about working with Akshat was the flexibility. So most of the consultants, they come up with only 3 drafts and it's done. So as a person, I generally don't like fixed deadlines. I mean, I believe in the final work. So I think that's why there was a synergy between the ways of working. And what I like the most about Akshat, I am right now in UK and he was in India or Singapore or Japan at that point of time with different time zones. But he was very flexible, scheduling the calls, be it via WhatsApp or the normal call or the Skype. And I think he was mostly available whenever I needed him. Whenever I had a question regarding the strategy or anything, he was there.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much for such a wonderful feedback. I really appreciate your time and all the inputs that you have given. And it has been extremely wonderful speaking with you. And
Thank you.